So NuRAD versus Akai. I want to take a minute and talk through my decision to change from Akai to the NuRAD. I bought my first Akai in 1986, and I didn't play that one much because I was practicing tenor a lot at the time. And then I bought a 4000 shortly after they were released in the year 2000. I played that one a good bit, so I kind of knew what the EWI was about. And then around 2010, a jaw tremor surfaced and it ended my saxophone career. So I turned to EWI exclusively because it didn't trigger the tremor. So this is a long history with me and Akai, and it made for a thought-filled decision. So I know there's a lot of Akai players here in the EWI Den, and I hope there's Aerophone and Yamaha players in here as well. And I'm just personally searching for the best way to express myself musically, and it's not my intent to abandon anyone. And quite honestly, the focus inside the EWI Den has always been on controlling the controller. So articulation studies, roller exercises, EWI fingerings, the standard fingerings, the transposals, the pentatonic groups, improvisation tips, etc. Just solid information to help build musical skills on whatever controller you decide to play. But no matter what synth you're playing, internal, external, software, hardware, your ability to skillfully control the EWI is what gives you the best chance of finding your own voice on these instruments. And it's for this reason I don't talk about synthesizers very much. I mean, until you learn to control the EWI, it really doesn't matter what synth you're playing. So let's get into the thoughts that led to my decision making. First of all, do I want internal sounds? And my answer to that is no. I'm just looking for a controller. I use my computer to run software synthesizers, which are external sounds. And it's getting easier and easier to use soft synths. Davidson Carpenter's EVI-NER is a great example. I use the EVI-NER most of the time presently. And although I used to use the internal practice patches for practicing, I never do that anymore. It wasn't a conscious decision. I just enjoy the external synths so much more, and they're very easy to set up, so I just find myself doing that. So my Akai has features that I paid for and never use. The internal sounds and the Bluetooth wireless system for broadcasting its sounds both make the Akai a little bit bigger, a little bit weightier. But of course, if it proves that the Akai is the best controller, that wouldn't matter. But I'd rather not be spending my money on controls I'm never going to use. As a result, the Akai and the NuRAD would still be on my list because they're controllers. So if you like the convenience of internal sounds, then the NuRAD is already off your list and you don't have to search any further. The NuRAD does score a couple of bonus points with its onboard Panda Audio MIDI Beam RX02 wireless MIDI system. So it broadcasts wireless MIDI to your computer. It's really amazing. And the MIDI Beam is a nice feature for the NuRAD, but it would not be a determining factor since control is kind of the most important thing. But it does get a bonus donut for the MIDI Beam. Goes to NuRAD, all right? So I could purchase, if I'm playing Akai, I can purchase the MIDI Beam separately for use with the Akai, but then I have to either strap it on the body of the instrument or hook the MIDI Beam to my belt or put it in my pocket or something. Let's talk about the hand position of these instruments. The Akai is positioned like a clarinet with your right hand low, and it requires a neck strap to play. The NuRAD has your hands side by side, making the instrument shorter in length, and you can play it without a neck strap. It does have a place where you can add a neck strap if you want. I believe originally Akai made the hand position similar to a clarinet to make the instrument more appealing. But acoustics govern the hand position of a clarinet, and an EWI is electronic, so engineering it to save space and add comfort makes sense. So in my opinion, that gives another bonus donut to the NuRAD. The fingering system, this was critical to me. I mean, it had to have, it's the first thing I checked for. It had to have EWI standard fingerings, and both the Akai and the NuRAD work with EWI standard fingerings, so that's a go. Now, the NuRAD added a third pinky key for your left hand, and it is programmable. And I've always wished for this key. I programmed it immediately for a whole step up, and it works just as I had hoped. I'll address this in the future in a video after I can integrate it into my playing properly. The mouthpiece. There's a difference in the breath sensors. The Akai is a through system, meaning the air actually moves through the instrument, and the NuRAD is a closed system, so the air does not flow through the instrument. And there's been a lot of discussion online about, leaking air out of the corners of your mouth when playing the Akai. I agree with that. I think it really helps with articulation and the speed of the air. The NuRAD requires the same technique. So this one ends up being a matter of taste, but they're even. However, my first Akai had the closed system, and I loved that. I was really disappointed when I got the 4000 and found out that it wasn't a closed system. It surprised me, actually. And I'm glad to have it back. So there's another bonus donut in the box for the NuRAD. So the bite plate. Akai's bite plate is used mainly for vibrato. I found it very difficult to control, and I tried to find ways around it. I used air vibrato quite a bit on the Akai. And the NuRAD's bite plate, you can program it for vibrato or portamento, which kind of is an advantage because the NuRAD provides an alternative to vibrato with an added feature called the vibrato lever, and we'll discuss that in a minute. So advantage goes to NuRAD on the bite plate. The lip sensor, Akai doesn't have a lip sensor. The lip sensor is actually an added metal piece on top of the mouthpiece that you can touch with your lip, and it's programmable. So that is definitely more control, and advantage goes to the NuRAD. An extra controller is a definite benefit. Let's move on to the glide plate. It's an exclusive feature of the Akai. It's not found on the NuRAD, and it's Akai's solution for portamento that's moving smoothly between notes. You trigger this with your left-hand thumb by reaching across the octave rollers to that far plate. That's the glide plate. It also can be programmed to send other CCs, so this is an additional controller, and it is a plus for the Akai. The octave rollers. Akai has 8 octave rollers, as does the NuRAD, but the Akai's octave rollers are a little bit larger. They measure 3 5/8 by 7/8, and the NuRAD's octave rollers are a little bit smaller. It's 2 3/4 inches by 7/8. The NuRAD minimizing the range of motion for the thumb is definitely an advantage. It'll take some time to get used to it, but I've been through the roller school before. The vibrato lever. There isn't one on the Akai, but there is one on the NuRAD, and it's controlled by the right-hand thumb. And the vibrato lever has been the most noteworthy feature of the NuRAD, influencing my own performance. I mean, this lever is a monumental step in humanizing the EWI. And I believe over time, anyone who masters this control has a shot at finding their signature voice on the EWI. Onboard chord rotator. The Akai does not have that. The NuRAD does. That's a definite advantage. And then the instrument menu and the manual. The Akai, the onboard menu is not intuitive at all or easy to use, and that makes interaction with the manual very cumbersome. The NuRAD, the onboard menu is very intuitive, and logging and changing settings is very straightforward. The manual's clear. They definitely get a bonus donut for this. Okay, so to wrap this up, let's just go side by side, write down the scoreboard, and see how things turned out. So we've got hand position, a clarinet style for the Akai, side by side for the NuRAD. Well, that's a personal preference, so all things are equal. The fingering system, we've got EWI standard fingering in both cases, so all things remain equal. But remember, the NuRAD does have that third pinky key on the left-hand side, and it is programmable. That's a definite plus. When we go to the breath sensors, the Akai has an open system that you can blow through, and the NuRAD has a closed system. So once again, that's a personal preference, so all things are equal. The bite plate, easily programmable for vibrato or portamento for the NuRAD. So that is a definite plus. Then the lip sensor, that is exclusive to the NuRAD. The glide plate, exclusive to the Akai, so that's a wash. The octave rollers, the NuRAD's octave rollers are closer together. shortening the range of motion for the thumb. I think that is a plus. The vibrato lever is exclusive to the NuRAD. The chord rotator exclusive to the NuRAD. And if we go through my own personal preferences, I've got 5 bonus donuts in the box. And that's the closed breath system, the MIDI beam wireless system, being able to play without a neck strap, the menu and the manual being intuitive and easy to work with, and finally it's smaller and it weighs less. So I hope this helps you if you have to think through this. This was the thought process I went through to arrive at my decision. I hope it helps you, and thanks for your time. Bye-bye.